All right, so hello everyone. This is the Geek Citizen Podcast. This is the very first episode. It's a little bit of a show that my friend here and I want to do, mostly to share our culture, share geek culture, to talk about things that we normally cannot really talk to many people, especially because we share a lot of this. Little bits and things about geek culture and geek stuff like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, video games, Marvel movies, all of that,
Yeah,
yes, right?
yeah, definitely, and it's not. You cannot really speak to. Well, there are a lot of people you can speak to about this sort of thing, but not everybody is very open to it, or as open as I think we are about kind of the whole thing. So it's nice to have this space.
Yeah, and it's also gonna serve as an invitation to the people that probably know us or the future people who will listen to this to watch and maybe get a little bit deeper into all of these kind of things that we actually talk about and like so much
Yeah, yeah,
and share
definitely.
that passion for those stories and share all of that all of that energy that drives us to these worlds, because ultimately we're gonna be talking about different worlds. And today it's probably the day we'll start with one of the ones that it's most familiar to me, but not just to me but to many people,
Mm.
which is Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars is. I mean, I was thinking about that today, and actually, I saw a few things that made me think about it. It's actually almost 50 years old now. Old
Oh
now, so
damn, yeah, it is.
it's yeah. So that's quite a while.
Especially because
Yeah.
this year marks the 25th anniversary of the Revenge of the Sith, isn't it? Or the 20th?
The 20. We're on 2025, so that's. It was 2003. 2003. 22 years for the Revenge of the Sith, I think.
No, it's the
And it would
20th
be
anniversary. Yeah, it was
the
released
20th.
on 20,
Yeah, the 20th.
2005 actually.
2020,
Yep.
2025, 2005, yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
All right, so we're
Yeah.
gonna kick this off with our little bit of impressions about the latest Star Wars show. We was Skeleton Crew. It was released at the beginning of December and it spanned until January. It was an amazing show that
Mm,
surprised, I think, everyone. It
yeah.
was really, really interesting to see how I like this, especially because it evoked so many things, and that's something that I want to talk about in a little bit. But
Mm,
it evoked so many different things, and it was based on so many others as well, and it
yeah.
turned out really good.
We were um, we were talking about this off mic actually, and I was telling you that it actually kind of surprised me a lot concerning well basically because when I saw the trailers and that sort of thing, I didn't really expect for it to be sort of my cup of tea, really, right? And it surprised me in the best way possible. It reminded me about a lot of things that I watched when I was younger, and things that I really really loved. So not only Star Wars, but things outside of the Star Wars universe as well. So it was really really great in that sense. But we can develop that as we go on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the general idea that they had when they produced that show was to explore another part of a universe and make it a little bit more approachable. And I think the
Mm.
general consensus from the people who have watched it, who know about Star Wars, it's that it's a Star Wars show that does not require you to have watched any Star Wars at all before.
And I think that's great
Yeah,
because
that
Star
was a
Wars,
fantastic idea.
because Star Wars, and we can talk about it that a little bit later if you want. But Star Wars has a kind of a thing where it's not really. I mean, it's very gatekeepy, but that's not only the thing. It's just it's today again. It's 50 years old almost. Uh, there's a lot of lore and a lot of things to explore in this universe. Sometimes it can get a little bit, especially today. I think it's difficult to know where to start.
Oh yeah,
Star
it's
Wars
so
sometimes.
extensive. Like you can totally start at the beginning, right, of the movies. But it's sort of like an iceberg, and if you go to YouTube and start looking for an Star Wars iceberg, you're gonna find a ton of stuff, and you're gonna
Mm.
go from just watch the prequels, or just watch the first three movies and then watch the next three movies, or as obscure as didn't even you read the Legends books, or didn't you play Knights of the Old Republic?
I played Knights of the Old Republic. I kind of have a vague idea of some elements that are on the Legends books and the different comics that came out as well, right? Because that's the other thing. There are many different eras of Star Wars as well, right? So
Yeah.
and today with let's call it corporate synergy and Disneyfication of the whole franchise, which we can discuss that later as well. But yeah, it's kind of they've been trying to streamline what Star Wars is, sometimes with better results than others, and that's why I think also Skeleton Crew was kind of
A success, I think.
a success. It was a success, but it was especially it was very refreshing, right?
Yeah, I think
It
that's the
didn't
word.
feel it didn't feel constrained by the whole thing with the lore and with the Skywalker saga, or even with the Jedi. I think. I mean,
Yeah,
we.
but that's actually kind of a critique that I have, but not from this show, but from everything that Star Wars been doing lately. But yeah, I'll talk
Mm,
about it. I'll talk about it a little bit later.
sure. I mean, I really. uh, I think that this sort of show was great in the sense that it was a show that I didn't know I needed, but I definitely needed it.
Yeah, that
And
Star
I
Wars
needed,
needed quite a
yeah,
while, quite a lot. Yeah, they have been needing something like this for quite a while.
yeah. So in that sense, I think one of the elements, I mean, and maybe we can start from here, is that I love the whole kind of pirate aesthetic in
Yeah,
space,
for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that
Uh,
the general idea for them to go for pirates in this show was really interesting because they've been in Star Wars since like forever.
mm,
But I couldn't start. I couldn't stop myself from shaking the feeling that they were doing basically a Star Wars live action remake of the Treasure Planet.
yeah. I definitely felt that, and I love them for it. But
Yeah,
I love them for it
especially because
because
it's like one of those super underrated animated
mm,
Disney films that it's also its own kind of remake from a live action movie that Disney
um,
did, but like very
uh,
centered on a real life pirates
it was
based on a novel.
based on a novel from when was this? I don't
Robert
know,
Louis and
but yeah,
Stevenson's, like in the
Stevenson's, which was
late
18,
1800s, yeah.
80s, 90s, something like that. Yeah, it was like with the time, like contemporary to Jules Verne and the whole thing. So, but anyway, yeah, it was very refreshing, definitely. Sorry if I cough a little bit. I'm a little bit under the weather still, but I'm here. So, but in any case, yeah, it was definitely kind of a remake, a Disney-fied remake of Treasure Planet, which is funny to say because Treasure Planet is also a Disney
Yep.
property. But but as you were saying, it is kind of this property that, I mean, in today's day and age, I don't know if a lot of people know actually. And it was actually a very nice experience because after watching Skeleton Crew, I actually went ahead and rewatched
Treasure Planet.
Treasure Planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Uh,
it's one of those things when you start finding the similarities, and the creators, they were very smart about what they wanted to base upon their show, and what good things to take from here and there, and probably some of the elements that made for so many people the Treasure Planet not something not so good that they didn't enjoy that much. They improved upon on the show, right? Yeah, but I
and
couldn't
yeah.
really help but looking at the similarities, like the I don't know, the robot, like it's so
Mm.
uncanny to see like the robot was the band was in Treasure Planet. It was the almost like the key to the whole mystery at some point.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point when I was saying like, like you just should have kind of had that map MacGuffin sort of thing, which which Treasure Planet has, like the map, right, for the whole thing, and I was like, yeah, this is very reminiscent of this thing that already exists, right,
Yep.
and it's. I mean, this is maybe a little bit of a broader conversation regarding on how series and TV and films are made today. This this discussion about authenticity versus
Creativity.
creativity and things just being safe from a business standpoint, right? So it's I think it's a difficult conversation and it's a deep conversation, especially also thinking about AI and new technologies, that sort of thing. But I don't want to get too carried away with other stuff. But yeah, there's definitely that Treasure Planet element in the thing. There's also, I mean, I haven't really. I'm going to be very honest. I know there's a lot of influence from Goonies.
Oh
in,
yeah,
uh,
for
in,
sure.
in Treasure
It's
Planet.
basically the Goonies and space. That's the other point.
It's basically the Goonies on space. And having said that, I have to say that I haven't watched the film in its entirety. So I know what it is about. I know the idea, and I definitely saw the parallels with that and with a lot of other things. I mean, there was even a point where, especially I think during the first episode or two actually, where I was like, okay, this is kind of Stranger Things as well.
Yeah,
you know?
and I
So,
think
like-
the next similarity from what the creators were trying to emulate or trying to get inspiration from, and it's part of this Hollywood trend to pay homage to the most creative minds and the most creative, creative stories of the 80s, right? Because the Goonies. Well, I haven't watched it in a while, and I watched it when I was a kid, and I really liked it because it used to be one of those weekend movies that you catch on TV, right?
Yeah.
But it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
story written by Steven Spielberg, and Skeleton Crew also poses a lot of imagery that you can clearly find in other Steven Spielberg's creations like E.T., right?
Well, and again, it's really interesting because I mean, Spielberg didn't direct necessarily Star Wars or wasn't directly involved in creating Star Wars. That was definitely Lucas, but I mean Spielberg was still very involved with Lucasfilm
Oh
and
yeah, Indiana Jones.
with Indiana Jones specifically. And it's interesting that still George Lucas and Spielberg are like really good lifelong friends, and it's like yeah, it shows. It
And
shows.
pioneers on their craft. Like everything that they
Definitely.
did laid out the plan for how Hollywood does things nowadays. And the fact that they try to
Yeah.
to go back to that, it's incredible. And I think that's why I don't feel like the similarities that they share with Goonies, with Treasure Planet, Treasure Island, E.T. even. It's like they're stealing or it's not imaginative, but it's like
No,
constructing on what they did back in the 80s on the universe that they also helped create.
and I think that's one of the things that I saw that I really loved, and that's not really necessarily that common nowadays. There was a lot of respect.
Yep,
Right?
exactly.
There was this idea of homage of the whole thing, but you really felt like there was something genuine, a genuine feeling, a genuine want of wanting to create something new, uh, with the reinterpretation of a lot of things that which we already have discussed. But yeah, that was again. It was refreshing because especially today, there's a lot of properties and a lot of elements in not only in film but also in music and generally in anything,
In
any
entertainment.
artistic in entertainment, let's say. Yeah, in entertainment there's this I don't know how to say it. It's just this kind of idea of recycling things for their own sake and just to make a quick buck.
Yep. Yeah,
I
cashing
feel
on the
like
nostalgia, that's it.
yeah, that's the expression. I feel this wasn't it. This wasn't that, right? This wasn't just trying to make a quick buck and cash in. It was really something that the creators behind this project were really passionate about, and that's again I'm repeating this word a lot, but it's definitely because that's the best way I have to describe it. It's refreshing.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably one of the things that I also liked it about the show so much, it's the timeline that they picked,
Hmm.
which is still the probably the favorite piece of the timeline of the Star Wars timeline that most of the shows are being built in, right?
Built on. Yeah.
Which is the gap between episode 6 and episode 7, right? Pretty much as we have also seen in other projects that they have been trying to fill the gap between episode
Hmm.
3 and episode 4, right? It's also
Yeah.
almost like a 30-year period, and the fact that they try to do all of this, right, to bring in something so familiar as pirates into Star Wars, which also has pirates, and they have had them for quite a long time, and bring them into the narrative that of the aftermath of the episode 6. It's really really well thought of. It's very well designed. Because it also shows the way the New Republic is spread too thin on
And
the whole galaxy, that they are not really managing very well this kind of governing the galaxy after the Empire was defeated, and the idea that it's very very recurrent
it's a
into our own democracies that once a tyranny it's the defeated, what's left. It's
Yeah.
usually at the really the organized mess.
Uh, yeah, you're preaching to the choir here. I've been really thinking about that a lot lately, for I think obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, and that's the thing, and that's the thing. Star Wars, uh, sometimes more, sometimes less, but Star Wars has always had this kind of political element
Yep.
to it, right? And I was actually thinking about this a couple of days ago, right? I've been wanting to rewatch Andor, actually, which is a completely different tone from Skeleton Crew, right? But there is still this, even in Skeleton Crew, even if it's kind of not touched as deeply as maybe in other properties such as Andor, it's still very aware of the world that Star Wars is set in, right? And and yeah, there are elements that are kind of being touched on Star Wars constantly, which Skeleton Crew has, and has kind of something more to say about it. There's this element of even even sometimes kind of this slavery and the idea of which is something that I've always wanted to explore
Yeah,
more with
that's
Star
that's
Wars.
probably
Is
one of one of those things that they explore quite well, but in
yeah,
the Clone Wars, but that they haven't really touched upon a little bit more in their latest projects, and it's definitely interesting, especially
mm.
when you put in the movies that your main character, your main savior, chosen one, Darth Vader, if you will, used to be a slave, and they
Yeah.
should try to do something a little bit more on that note.
Well, I mean, I'd love for Star Wars to and Lucasfilm to try to do that sort of thing. I don't know if Disney will
I think they
try
can,
it,
and I think they kind of implied
but
it. And I'm gonna say something here that we should have said at the beginning. We're gonna
well,
spoil this show. There are gonna
oh,
be a
sure.
lot of spoilers from now
Yeah,
on.
no,
So
yeah.
yeah, so this is a very fair warning. Like if you do not want to be spoiled, this is a good time to stop. We already
Mm,
talked about what like a general opinion of what it was, but yeah, from here on out, it's gonna be full of spoilers, right? So
yeah.
that was a fair warning. So the next comment I will make will contain spoilers. This is your
Go ahead, man.
last warning.
Go
All
ahead.
right. So yeah, I think that by the end of the show, by the final episode, they really wanted to touch upon that idea of slavery, right?
Mm,
By having all of these citizens from Aten being basically slaves to a pirate crew, right?
yeah,
Um, Obviously, it didn't pan through, and I think it's something that they also wanted to explore, but they haven't been brain enough to fully do it. And it was on Solo,
mm,
on Han Solo's film, and on droid slavery. I think it was
yeah,
incredible. So yeah, I think they have a really good place if they want to add a little bit more of drama into their story. I would love to see it happen. I would love for Disney to stop wasting Wookiees and try to do it in that
oh
sense. I would
yeah,
absolutely love if they would make a show that explores what the hell did the Empire do to Wookiees after the Clone Wars finished, and in the
yeah.
tones of slavery, I think it would be great.
You just made me you just reminded me about the acolyte and how they basically wasted a whole the
Again,
whole concept of the Wookiee Jedi, but
they
anyway,
wasted a
yeah,
really cool Wookiee character again.
yeah. Yeah, but no, and that's the thing, and that's something that I think Star Wars does really well in general, and it's exploring different elements of society and of societal how society works, right? With different kind of alien species, right? That's something that I've always liked. Star Wars is not the only kind of science fiction or fantasy
No, not really. Not really.
property to do it, but I really like the way that Star Wars does it because it's not very in your face still, right? I mean, there are other franchises that maybe do it even better, but the way that Star Wars does it, it's subtle, right? And I like that.
I still think they're being way too shy to go too political, except maybe for Andor.
Yeah.
Andor was like absolutely right in your face.
I really want to watch the second season when it comes out.
Yeah,
but,
I think it would be great
but
for
yeah.
us to talk about it as soon as the second season comes out, which is also going to be this year. But
Yeah.
apart from Andor, I think the Star Wars have always been very shy, especially on the Disney era, very
Yes.
shy of showing their political side again. Because of the huge backlash that Episode One had, right? But Star Wars
Yeah.
always has been very political and very reminiscent of the real world, and I think that's something that they also wanted to touch on this show, which is absolutely clear as well. Not just on the very poor side of the New Republic politics, but on the way they have shown lately, though the conditions of those isolated worlds of the Outer Rim, right? And
Yeah, no,
we don't know really
and,
where Adam is on the galaxy. Really, that they find the coordinates, right? But they're not really
Yes.
showing which part of the galaxy was, but maybe on the unknown regions, perhaps, or if it isn't on the
That-
unknown regions, it's in a really difficult part of the galaxy to get to.
To access, yeah.
And if it wasn't the Outer Rim, they've been really effective on showing how this works, because the Outer Rim was actually where the Empire was trying to grasp the hardest, right? And showing that contrast that the New Republic has not really been too effective on those places. It's really smart, and it shows those effects on how centralized governments always tend to fail their peripherals, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring a meme that I saw a couple of days ago, and that it's still on my mind, really. And it's basically I'm not going to describe the meme because it defeats the purpose of the meme, but it's this idea of yeah, who would think that thinking today about the importance of the taxation of the trade routes are so actually relevant for today.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, there's this underlying political element always in Star Wars that I've always found very unexplored, and to be honest, George Lucas tried to do it well in the prequels, and it was done better in the Clone Wars series.
Oh, yeah, better.
But I think there's this except for Andor, but there's this political element that's kind of just sort of missing in the new Star Wars, and I think Skeleton Crew does a phenomenal job of bringing some elements to the table that were not there before, at least at least kind of in the live action canon sort of thing, right? There was another element that I really loved about Skeleton Crew, and it kind of has to do with the political side of things, but it's even sometimes a little bit deeper, I think, and it's kind of this expansion of the the Star Wars myth, as I like to call it, right? I love this idea of Atom and the basically, yeah, this idea of the planet being completely separated in space from anything else we know,
Yep.
and at the same time kind of keeping this idea of I don't know, the lost city, the lost empire, the lost continent, sort of this kind of Atlantis idea, because
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say that it gave us also that kind of Atlantis mystery, which is also part of that very unfortunate Disney animation era that was not as successful as they wanted.
yeah, and one of the things that I love about that sort of idea of the lost city, continent, island, even, is that this idea that basically it allows you to play with an idea that I love and that I think that we need more of today, and it's the idea of utopia, right?
Yep.
I think one of the reasons why I liked Skeleton Crew so much, it's because it has a positive outlook on life in general. It touches on some very serious subjects, and rightly so, but it doesn't lose that childlike kind of wonder in its storytelling, and again, that's something that you don't see every day. That's something that you don't see every day, and I think that's something that we need more of.
Yeah, especially because the way they constructed at Atten was for them to, I mean, I wouldn't even say shyly, but they absolutely wanted to show a concept of a communist utopia.
Yeah, basically. And I mean, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it.
No, no, absolutely
Uh,
not. I think it was incredibly smart in the way they did it, right? Because they tried to show not only the architecture, because the architecture in Atten was incredibly gray, like
mm,
cement gray, very brutalist. Always
yeah.
presenting that everyone had their own kind of perfect job
Place,
to have a
yeah, they're
perfect
all.
life on that world to serve a greater purpose, and
Mm,
trying to yeah, kind of show how those how America view those Cold War societies, those Cold War communist societies, that were presented to be like absolutely paradise,
mm.
but set in on a Star Wars galaxy. I believe was in uh, very creative, right? I
I
wouldn't
think
have never imagined that kind of thing being added to Star Wars before this.
I think that's one of the powers of sci-fi and especially fantasy, right? I think the suspension of disbelief that these sort of stories allow you to do, uh, allow you to also how to say this, imagine, right? Elements that have been maybe theorized in other parts of the world, or like even academically, bring them bring them, for lack of a better expression, but a little bit more down to earth, even if there's this still fantastic element to them, and I think that's something that's very very valuable, especially especially today when I think that new ideas and new interpretations are definitely needed. That's one of the reasons actually why I love Star Wars, but fantasy and science fiction in general as well. So, so again, that's something that I hadn't really thought about it as much regarding the kind of old Soviet Union type architecture and that sort of thing. But you're definitely right.
Yeah,
You're
I
definitely
mean,
right.
think about it. I mean, try to compare like Ukraine's architecture before the Soviet Union went down, and it's
Mm,
brutalist, and it's totally like the one that they used. The one that the production used for at Aden and even at Akron.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely that sort of very
Yeah, like if they thought like, what if they
minimalist
actually
but
worked? What
futurist
if
at
they're
the same time. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting in that sense, and I think I really want a second season from this show because I think that's something that could be explored. Sorry, and that's something that could be explored more in future stories. It's it's great in that sense. Now, I don't know. Do you want to talk a little bit about characters
Well,
in the series?
you mentioned something before that that I wanted to say that I think it
Yeah.
was really great, and yeah, there's this sort of fantasy elements, a lot of fantasy elements within Star Wars, right? I mean, it's the
Yeah.
story with samurai space wizards, right?
Basically, yeah. I mean, we laugh, but it kind of is. Yeah.
Exactly. So there was something that I really liked, which I think it's a great addition to the general Star Wars lore, and it was on the form of a papyrus, right? A
Mm,
scroll where they actually found well, not the location, but the description of what the mints were, right? The fact that
yeah.
it's written on a scroll, that it shows, or that it's trying to tell us that there was something from the old Republic, which is a very old part of the Star Wars universe, that it's dating from even before the High Republic, so say more than 2,000 years before the events of what we actually know Star Wars is. I think it was fascinating. I think they
A
didn't.
long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah,
But
even
really,
longer time ago.
longer time ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fact that they tried to touch upon that without digging too deep, so people are not getting absolutely focused
Lost in
on lost
the
into
yeah.
what how does this fit into the lore, into the timeline. I think was really smart and a really good addition, and especially because we know that there is going to be there is a production still being, well, a movie in production, may probably still in the early steps of production,
Yeah.
that is going to show us the dawn of the Jedi. I think it's fantastic, and it's still gonna be adding on to this little bit of pieces that they're giving us to find a whole puzzle.
And
So
again,
yeah.
to build on what you were saying, one of the things that I really loved about Skeleton Crew, well, I mean, I'd need to enumerate kind of the new Star Wars series and films that have come out, but basically, still thinking about the Skeleton Crew and Andor, one of the things that I love about the way that the series, these two series actually, because both of them in different ways, but both of them kind of do this. It's they actually build on the world of Star Wars without having to
To do
rely
many
necessarily.
retcons.
Yeah, exactly. Without having to go back to the same old well. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's refreshing again to get go outside of the Skywalker saga
Mm-hmm.
and outside of this whole story about the Jedi and the Sith and the whole thing. Even though it's still the Star Wars world and there's elements of that.
Yeah, I think they played
The
a very smart model there that had already worked before, which is the reason why I think um, Rogue One was so successful, right? Because
mm.
you don't get to see you see Rogue One, you know that it's a movie that it's on the Star Wars galaxy on the main story, but you don't get to see like one lightsaber until the very end, right? And it's something that it
And
happened on this series as well, and it like it built, yeah, it kept building on the great elements of Star Wars without needing to go deeper onto Jedi lore or trying to tease us with, I don't know, the rise of the First Order or Snoke or anything like that that people
yeah,
still wanna kind of see, right?
and I'm going to say something that's maybe a little bit controversial, and if you want to discuss it, we can discuss it maybe a little bit later. But I don't want to get too into that because it's not directly connected to a Skeleton Crew. But there was something that I really loved about episode 8, actually.
Yep.
About episode 8 of Ryan Johnson's Star Wars films, the Star Wars film, The Last Jedi. And it was this idea of really saying, which they completely retconned on episode 9 and whatever, but it's this idea of let's let's get away from the Skywalker saga. Let's make this world bigger because really the Star Wars world is enormous, and I feel like for the last 50 years or so, right, or a little bit less maybe, but we've just kind of scratched the surface of what this world is and could be, right? And
Yeah, we've been
uh,
stuck on the same part of the galaxy and the same story for far too long, and I think that's also why many people find it really hard to like this kind of shows because it doesn't
mm,
have anything to do with the main story, with any Skywalker, and that's probably one of the reasons why Star Wars stories still struggle nowadays, because if it doesn't have anything to do with what people already know from the very first three films, they lose interest. They lose interest really
yeah,
quickly.
and that's very sad.
Yep.
That's something that, and I mean, it's understandable, especially if you take a stand, kind of try to look at it from a general public sort of standpoint, right? I mean, most people, in general, uh, don't get kind of. I mean, when you go to watch a film, most people don't want to have to think about where does this fit in the whole canon of things, right?
Yeah.
But again, that's why I think, and we've been touching about this, touching on this a couple of times already. That's why I think that they struck a really good balance with Skeleton Crew because it's not really the story that we are accustomed to, but there are elements that kind of harken back to that still. So it's great. It's great in that sense as well. And again, there's this more mythic element from Star Wars, which I love, and other shows like Ahsoka, for example, also have,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
yeah. That kind
yeah.
of more heavier world building that they're trying to do with Ahsoka, but that I think pretty much as you said, it was also tried to be mentioned on The Last Jedi on episode 8 and
Mm,
never touched again. That I think it's something that they can also, keep trying to do in that amount, right? It's not so heavy, it's not so difficult to digest for the rest of people, to find it too overwhelming, and to make it part of the plot, because it would ruin the experience for someone who hasn't seen any of that or known any of that. And I think that was one of the most elegant successes, I think.
yeah. Yeah, I think there was, and again, I go back to this idea that I talked about at the start of our conversation today, and it's I wasn't expecting really anything from Skeleton Crew, and to be honest, uh, for the first episode, really, I was just watching it. If I'm being really honest, because I'm a completionist and I love Star Wars and I want to see what they do, right?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's also
But
that's also the reason why I watched She-Hulk and Secret Invasion, and that was awful.
yeah, yeah. We should speak about Spider-Man, the new
Oh yeah, for
animated
sure.
series later on, but let's not get
Yep.
off topic. So yeah, so yeah, but again, um, I was very pleasantly surprised because it shows that when you have a good script, and people who really have a story to tell, and they are given the I don't even know if it's the creative liberty necessarily, but the tools to tell the story that they want, you can get really, really good. I don't really like this word, but yeah, content.
Oh yeah, especially nowadays. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. For as long as you
yeah.
try to do something with the same passion that people have for the universe or the story that you're trying to create, not just for the sake of creating something, of producing something, perhaps. Yeah,
Mm,
that was also gonna be better. And still, I'm not gonna say it was perfect because
no.
it isn't, and I still have to be very Star Wars, a known Star Wars fan, and I still think that the show left things a little bit unsolved. That the fact that they didn't doesn't make the show any bad or anything, but it does make me feel like I need the backstory, right? Because that's probably what everybody
Yeah.
does with anything Star Wars lately, and it's like, wait, but where does this come from? I need their backstory, and probably the one that annoyed me the most was Jod's backstory. I
Mm,
I I I don't know. Probably if they planned on probably a little bit later along the way, we'll get the details of why the production took that choice. But I am absolutely sure that the original intent was to try to give us a little bit more of Jot's backstory, because otherwise, the well, probably the reason why they wanted to do it was because they wanted to keep that little bit of a mystery about whether or not he was an actual Jedi or not. Um, by the end, as I told you, spoilers, he is,
yeah.
but not
Well,
like a
kind of.
full Jedi. Really, it's a sensitive board user for sure, but not a Jedi.
It's kind of like I was a Padawan, but then my master got killed, and I kind of got this ability to use the force, but I don't really actually know how to use it or what it really means.
Or
I
how to
just use it
fully
to
use it,
my
or how to
or
connect
how
with
to
it, or yeah, or even understand it. It's like,
which
yeah, he's pretty much Ezra if from Rebels, if Kanan would have died in at the end of season 1.
which which again I think it's a really interesting idea in the sense that uh, it goes back to this idea of parrots, right? It's the like I mean, I have some cards that I can play. I can use the force, and but I use that ability for my own selfish ends, which is something that has not really been that much explored
Yeah,
in Star Wars outside of the Jedi Sith dichotomy sort of thing. Which I think, again, it's a very interesting idea. Uh, Going back to Grey Jedi's and other types of Force users, which have been
teased at
kind of
least.
yeah, that can be have been at least teased on in the Star Wars universe, right? So that I think it's also really good. And since you're talking about Jod, actually, there's an element about there's an element about Jod that I really liked, and I think that's why they got Jude Law to play the character, because I mean, one of the things that I loved about the whole characterization behind it was this idea that I mean, this guy is doing really despicable stuff, and I know I shouldn't trust this guy, but this guy is just so charming. It's like I cannot hate you. That's kind of what
True.
that's kind of one of the things that I really found interesting about the character. And again, I think a lot of that is just Jude Law's charisma, right?
But that's
But
probably one of the things that I wanted with his backstory, because I wanted to care more for him. Like I know, yeah, and Jude Law's character and his speech during the on episode 7, I think, was absolutely stellar. It was I would compare it to that speech at the end of Andor. It was incredible.
yeah,
But I wanted more, right? More in the sense of seeing Kanan at the beginning of the Bad Batch. Yeah, like
I
you
think
actually see the
yeah.
moment when Order 66 kills his master. I wanted something like that. I know it's probably a little bit backwards to what we're saying. It's very Star Wars, typical Star Wars fan,
Yeah.
but that's what I wanted.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's the thing. Sometimes, I mean, as fans, sometimes we say like we want this, but at the same time, we're not the ones that are writing the story. I mean, I would love to get to write a Star Wars script someday. But anyway,
Yeah, you know why I feel that way as well, because I feel like I was very spoiled after Ahsoka. Ahsoka was like an absolute fan service fest.
yeah, definitely.
And this
No,
one,
and
this Skeleton Crew wasn't, and they really wanted to do their thing, but they could have had a little bit of fan service. So yeah, that's
I
just me.
think we've spoken about this before. I think outside of kind of this podcast sort of environment, but I think that's very true, especially about Disney Star Wars, right? And it's like there's probably a business reason behind it or whatever, but creatively, I think there's in most of the productions that they make that they create, I always feel like there's uh, an episode missing, half an hour missing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it's
You know
always
what I mean?
happened. Well, this is a little bit off topic, but it definitely happened with What If season 3 for Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I hate that they're trying to be shy of putting another couple of episodes to fully complete the story and fully laid out the characters or whatever. It happened with the Acolyte as well. I think
I
the
was
Acolyte,
I was going to say that, yes, and I think the
yeah,
Acolyte was really hurt by that kind of missing episode or episode and a half that I think they had mapped out, but for whatever reason they didn't. They might even have shot it, but I
but they
think.
didn't release it because they didn't think they couldn't afford to have another episode, so or maybe they were shooting very long episodes and they ended up chopping bits and things, ended up having shorter episodes. That's one
and
of my
the,
critiques. Episodes were
and
really
the,
short.
and again, this is something that Disney in general
Yeah,
does. That Netflix doesn't do,
no, nobody in the industry is doing that.
or even Amazon or I don't know, yeah, HBO, whatever. Um, Again, a little bit off topic, but I'm watching it right now, and it's kind of in my mind as well at this point. Are you watching Invincible, the
The
Amazon
animated
Prime
one,
show?
yeah.
The animated one. That's something that I really like about that show. I mean, if you need a 1 hour episode, even if it's animated, you get a 1 hour episode to tell the part of the story that you need to tell well. And I know that that's more difficult to do in terms of production cost and whatever in live action,
But I mean, yeah, but
but
still, like, remember that the
still,
Acolyte was like the most expensive Disney show they had done before.
yes.
It was really expensive. They had the budget for like each episode had the budget for like an episode of House of the Dragon,
And I
and
mean,
they
it doesn't
absolutely squandered it
really.
on each one. I don't know what they did with that money, but it was not
I
well
don't know.
spent.
I don't know how they spent that money, but really, I think Disney needs a check on that because
Yep.
what's going on there? It doesn't make sense. I mean, something like I don't know. And again, comparisons are a little bit. Yeah, not it's not the best thing to do. It's not the best thing to do, but at least in something like I don't know, Rings of Power, you see the amount of money that people are expending in terms of production
Oh,
and the whole thing.
right. I mean, and their episodes are like over an hour long. They're so long. That's the main reason why I haven't finished Rings of Power. The episodes are far too long,
They're
and I don't
very
know
long. They're
why I mean, I'm not asking for an hour and 15 minutes, hour long episode of Skeleton Crew, but if they're chopping a little bit of the story to give us shorter episodes, so they don't give us a very 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 short one, then commit to having longer episodes at least.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't know if it's because it's Disney, and in the end, Disney still tries to pander to this type of family-oriented type of products, right? Films, TV, and that sort of thing, and they feel like people are going to just turn off after 35 minutes or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. That they're gonna lose them if it's gonna last for more than their dinner.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, and that. Okay, this is a more general criticism, and again, I don't want to get too off topic, but I need to say it since we're talking about this. That's a problem. That's a problem that the streaming era has in general. I feel like a lot of I mean most of the big companies today are not really thinking about necessarily. eh, there are exceptions, evidently, but I think there are a lot of companies and parent companies that are thinking about just engagement, right? And I need people to keep the TV on, even if the product that I'm giving them it's not really that high of a quality, right?
Well, I
And I
think
think
it's
that's a
that's
problem.
not a saying of the streaming era. I think it's a repeated history. It's TV being again what TV used to be.
Okay, now maybe sure, I can see that. I can see that, and maybe we were spoiled for a couple of years there, and we,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I'm gonna say the last thing that it's a little bit off topic, but I think it's relevant. One of the reasons why Malcolm in the Middle was ended
Mm.
was because it wasn't having enough rating because they were competing with the X Files back then in Fox, and
Yeah,
competing with the
that's,
X Files was really difficult, and
yeah,
they got pushed to another schedule. People stopped watching and they got disengaged. So yeah, I think
oh,
the era where streaming was its own thing that created a really top quality thing. It's over and it's going back to the way TV used to be. And they yeah, and
mm,
probably that's one of the things that drives also Star Wars content to be produced a little bit more often, which is how much engagement it's giving to Disney Plus, right? And
yeah,
since Disney Plus started, that engagement has been dramatically dropping show by show. Even if
yeah,
the stuff they've been making, it's actually really good. Because it happened to Agatha,
and
for Marvel.
yes,
It was an amazing show. It was really good,
I loved it.
but
I
the
loved it.
ratings were really low.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we're getting a little bit off topic, but I want to see what they did with the new Captain America movie.
Oh yeah,
I'm not sure.
yeah.
I
It
mean,
got premiered today, I guess. I
it
think,
got premiered today, or it
or it's
gets
gonna be
premiered here
tomorrow. It's
tomorrow.
something like that. Yeah, I've already
Today or
seen
tomorrow,
a
something like
couple
that.
of reviews online.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see what they do, but it's interesting. Last thing, a little bit off topic here, but you know what we should do for one of our podcast episodes? Actually, I thought about this a couple of days ago, and then I forgot, and now I remembered again. We should do X-Men '97, talking about good quality animation.
Oh, jeez,
It's
jeez, yeah, I
really,
know.
really good. No, I know I've been harping on that for like a year now, but
Yep,
yeah.
yep, yep. And it's still gonna have to wait because you know what I've started to watch that I hadn't.
Mm.
Daredevil.
Oh, the Netflix
Yep,
show.
yep, yep. And which is
Okay,
on Disney now, and
which is
because I
Disney
absolutely
now.
want
Yeah.
to watch Daredevil Born Again.
I should actually try to rewatch it. Should we do an episode on Daredevil maybe? Once it
If
comes
I
out.
can finish it on time, yep, for sure. There's so much
Sure, sure.
stuff to talk about.
There's a lot of stuff, but
Yep.
because I would also love to do something with Invincible, but anyway, there's a lot of stuff to watch,
Yep.
but yeah. Anyway, going back to Skeleton Crew because that was a
So
little bit
yeah,
of
mysteries. So I still think they left out a lot of mysteries. The show left out a lot of
mm,
things that are a little bit unsolved that I believe they're not gonna be really elaborated on any other thing because probably from what we were just talking about, Disney it's not in the business of making multiple season shows unless
no.
the first one the one that they do as a first season is an absolute success. Probably I don't think it's gonna be a good idea for them to do a second season for Skeleton Crew because I don't
No.
want them to have the same Stranger Things problem that their actors are gonna be way too old for a second season again.
I mean, how old are those guys? Like 25 already? But anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I don't want it to go that way. So yeah, I am absolutely content for them not to have a second season. But I still have to be annoying about this, and they left out things that are unsolved, and I want to know what the hell actually happened to the other mints. They only say they were
Yeah.
destroyed. That Adam was the last one, the fabled one that nobody have had been able to find. But the other ones were actually found because they were destroyed. But what happened to them?
And
I want to
again,
know what happened to that Akron. Why were they living on such a post-apocalyptic world?
yeah, it was like they were kind of really living on really on squalor, right? And again, that's something that Star Wars does really well. Star Wars does this kind of, when it's well written, definitely. Star Wars can do kind of this commentary and kind of class politics and class consciousness so well, right? It's like again, going back to episode 8, and again harkening it back to at Akron, right? This contrast between at Akron and at Tatooine, or even in episode 8 with the casino planet and all
Yeah.
of the rest of Star Wars, right? That's kind of that's something that I feel evidently other shows, other media does that sort of thing, but Star Wars does it with a very special kind of flavor, you know. It's
Yeah, now you're talking about the casino thing. I'm gonna say something about that later, but yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah. So so yeah, but there's definitely a lot of kind of mystery left at the end of the series, and it's kind of, I mean, again, as you were saying, it's likely that there won't be a season 2 for Skeleton Crew, but it would be really nice if this sort of elements are explored um, in another series or film. Hopefully, maybe, I don't know, the for example, it could be the
I don't know where could
the
they
new
explore those questions. Like I have
I
no
don't
idea.
I don't know, but maybe seeing as it's a very old sort of thing and it comes from the old Republic, the new Republic, whatever, put it on a film or something. And it doesn't have to be like directly even acknowledged, but it can just be like, yeah, this thing exists, and we're kind of just at least being kind of I mean, this is kind of a thing, but we're at least acknowledging it outside of this thing that already exists, right? I think that's a good way to do some world building as well.
Yeah, and for example, if they end up explaining that Atten and the other men were actually part of from the old republic, then yeah, for sure, I think they have the opportunity to do that um, on that untitled project for the Dawn of the Jedi, right? Um, but yeah, it's a little on the nose for us not to think about um, what the actual old republic was like
And
and where they
again,
come from. Yeah,
and
for how long have they have those myths been operating?
and again, similarly, and this is again very Treasure Planet, very kind of swashbuckling pirate story, finding the treasure and the whole thing. And it doesn't necessarily need an explanation, but it would be nice to know. I don't know how long has the Onyx Cinder been in Adatin? How did it get there? Why is it that you know?
Yeah, I
It's
mean, they talk about they said that the Onyx Cinder was one of the ships from Aten. That was the only way
yeah,
they could cross the barrier, right?
the
But
Kirkus barrier,
how
but
did they actually get there? How did they actually steal the ship? Um, that's something that they did not explain. They were really, really content on leaving us on not telling us the actual identity or even the face of Tad Reynard.
and again, that's again, it's very Treasure Planet, and I understand what kind of why they're doing that, but at the same time, but at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, what's wrong with having a backstory episode? You know, either if it's with Jod or even before what Adatin was, before before the fall of the republic, that sort of thing. I mean, there are elements to explore here still, and it's a little bit frustrating that we're kind of left hanging with this.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't asking for a lot of exposition to show whatever happened to. I mean, how Tad Reynard got the ship or anything, but it could have been like a hologram, you know,
Yeah,
try a hologram through Jesus, I forget the name of the droid, SM-33, right? If they just could have
yeah.
like try to hack him or try to fix it somehow and
do a
put a
Princess
hologram
Leia
of
in
what happened,
Tatooine
it
or
would have been
something.
perfect.
Yeah. Do a Princess Leia in Tatooine. It's like, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope, but in a pirate version or
Yeah,
just
you
the
know
guy
how would it be
explaining what's going on.
perfect? When they removed the restriction bolt from SM-33 when they were on Tad Rennett's tomb. Well, not tomb,
Mm,
but like chamber.
Chamber, yeah.
It could have unlocked the memory from him, showing what happened to the crew. It could have been played at like in the first 5 minutes of one of the episodes,
Again,
easily.
that's very Treasure Planet. The idea of the droid having all the information about the treasure, but
But he already
having
did.
lost
Like
its
he was ordered
memory.
by Tad Renner to
Yeah,
forget about Aden, and that's exciting. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go Treasure Planet, go all the way. Commit,
sure,
commit
commit
to
to
it.
it. Definitely. No, but anyway, I think all of what we're. I mean, we're being a little bit critical about it, the series, but at the end, I think this kind of it's all kind of nitpicky at the end as well. It's a really good series, and again, for what they did, it was really well done. But there's this element of yeah, I want more of this. And to be honest, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get it.
No, I don't think we're gonna get it at any point. Probably we will, knowing that it was received positively. And especially if their numbers improve a little bit after the release, probably Disney is still gonna consider to do something about it. Especially knowing that it can be seen without knowing much about Star Wars. Um, but probably some of those things are gonna be explored in. Well, we know that there is gonna be a Mandalorian movie, right?
Mm,
We know that there is an untitled movie that Dave Filoni is also gonna produce, right?
yes.
They're gonna do both. And filling
There's
the gap
the
between episode 7 and 6, it's still one of their priorities for sure.
yeah. Well, there's still the film that's coming up someday after episode 9 with Daisy Ridley, but I think they're going to explore the whole Skywalker thing again with that. hope I'm wrong, but okay.
Yep.
Let's see what they do with that. One of the things that I was thinking about, just going back and forth with the series, is that another element that it reminded me a lot about, especially on the last few episodes, was this idea of kind of the Wizard of Oz. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, with the supervisor, right?
Oh,
And this idea
right.
of,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, with the supervisor and this idea of we're just being watched by a robot, which is kind of like what's going on here. It's kind of like yeah, okay. Again, kind of a commentary on society and politics and the whole thing, which again has already been done in other type of media. Most notably, it made me think about the Wizard of Oz. But yeah, the idea of the supervisor was interesting in that way as well.
I really liked something about the supervisor, and I had it on a note for this. One of the good things, and it's the general layout of the supervisor looked very reminiscent of course, because they had to, right? Of Hal from 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yeah, sure.
But
It's,
this, and I saw lots of people commenting on that, right? Because it's obviously an AI trying to rule over people, right? Very, very on point to what our society is starting to look like nowadays. I loved it. But also, I don't know, probably people also noticed, and if you go ahead and rewatch it, you're gonna see it. It's impossible not to unsee it, and it's that the light of that droid, of the supervisor, turned to blue sometimes, and then from red, and it was incredibly alike R2, and I could not help but thinking, like, it must be that it should be right, that the At-Atom is so old that the supervisor is like one of the very, very, very old versions of an R unit.
Of an R unit. Yeah, I need to rewatch that. To be honest, I didn't catch that, but okay, interesting.
Yeah, it blinks from blue to red constantly, which is always gonna be a big theme for Star Wars in the matter of lightsabers, right? It's always gonna go from red to blue, but specifically it made me think of R2, and especially from when you watch Empire Strikes Back, you start seeing how R2 starts blinking a little bit more, and you see a little bit more of the shades of blue and sometimes a little purple of that light, right?
Yeah.
And we have never really been too keen, or maybe too specific on how droids' intelligence work, like how intelligent they are, how their artificial intelligence actually works. And I think this was a very good example of how all that technology in the Star Wars universe was like, because definitely they are very old, and the design of that droid made me think about it even more.
Couple of things that you actually made me think about with that comment. First of all, I don't know why they haven't done that yet, or like directly address it. It's been addressed tangentially in some series and in some Star Wars media in general, but they should just go ahead and do a series or a movie, maybe a series. I think it would be better, centered on droids. Like just make a planet about droids,
I think they have,
or a factory.
I think they have, and it hasn't been too engaging, too successful. or at least I haven't liked it that much. There is a very short, actually not that short. There is an arc in the fifth season of the Clone Wars, I think. They're like four
Yeah.
chapters, like full of droids, and I like it. But when I rewatch it, I'm like, well, maybe it's not that good, because I mean it's just droids, right?
Again, and they've, I was thinking about Clone Wars, and I was thinking about there's one episode I think which I love in I don't know if it's the first or the second season of The Mandalorian, about which really touches on droids and that sort of thing. Well, the first season of The Mandalorian, when the droid is one of the greatest things I think Star Wars has done in this new kind of Star Wars era. And especially with Taika Waititi as the voice and the whole thing. But anyway, yeah, that's one of the things.
Oh, and you
there
know,
was
there was
another-
an animated little bit of I don't know if it's counts as a series, but there was an animated product from Star Wars from back in the 80s, which was about
Yeah,
droids too,
yeah.
and it wasn't that good either. That's why I think they
Well,
haven't been trying to do anything more with droids, because
droids.
although it is interesting, the average Star Wars viewer, it's gonna see something about droids and they're not gonna get too much
They're not
use out of
gonna
it.
want to watch.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's maybe it's just me and whatever. But
No, yeah, I would love it
But-
too.
but-
I would love it too, and I think the way they've been trying to capitalize on droids lately has been incredible, and I felt it ever since they did Solo. And Solo's
yeah,
film has a really amazing take on droids, and so it does the sequels as well. I think they did the importance of BB-8 on episode 7 was one of the things that I loved about it, despite being a little bit derivative from episode 4. But I think they did it
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah, no, I mean, episode 7, what it is the derivative, definitely. It's a retelling of episode 4, but it's really well done. It's really well done. I think my problem with the new with the last trilogy comes really with episode 9. It's not
Oh yeah.
not even episode 8, because were a lot of elements in episode 8 that I really loved.
Yeah, I
But
think if we're gonna talk about that should be the next thing we could talk about Star Wars wise.
Yeah,
Because I have a lot to talk about.
sure, we can review that, and actually it would be an excuse to rewatch maybe not all of the movies, but some.
Yeah,
of the
maybe
movies,
not 9.
because maybe not 9, but yeah, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, there was another element from what you were touching on that I really found interesting, and that I wanted to build on, and it's this idea of basically more than the droids and the whole thing. There's this element of kind of the timelessness that Star Wars has always had. I mean, and I mean this going back to the supervisor character, and this idea that you were talking about, maybe the supervisor being a very old, one of the first R2 units, or that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the elements that I love about Star Wars in general, and I think that Skeleton Crew in particular played with that majestically, was this idea of the timelessness of Star Wars. Again, I said it before in the episode, but it's this idea of a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. We're talking about a futuristic past, which is one of those elements that I really love about Star Wars, and I know it comes from the old Flash Gordon sort of
Oh
series,
yeah,
mixed up with Kurosawa and the Hidden Fortress and all of these different influences that George Lucas had when he was coming up with the idea of Star Wars. But again, I think that's really one of the things that are priceless about the Star Wars universe in general. And
I
again,
wouldn't say it's
something
like
that I really
their intrinsic timelessness, but how the galaxy it's kind of frozen in time at some point, right? Same as it
yeah,
happens with fantasy, right? And same as it happens with the Lord of the Rings, like they're stuck on an age, right?
and that's something that's really interesting as well. Other other type of media do that as well, but one of the things that makes Star Wars special in that sense is that yes, they are kind of stuck in an age, but at the same time you have this idea of advancement and this idea of going kind of back in time in terms of technology as well,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
for
really
sure.
which is really interesting when you watch I don't know the three original movies, for example, and then you go. I mean, in theory, you go back to the three prequels, right? And yes, they came before, but the idea is that it's a time before, and it's a more civilized time, as everyone would say in episode 4, right?
Yeah.
It was a more civilized time. That sort of idea of going back and forth, and again, that plays a lot with a lot. That plays a lot of good tropes of the idea of Middle Ages, the Renaissance. It mirrors a lot of history, and that's something that's very, very precious about Star Wars. To quote George Lucas, it rhymes. It rhymes.
Yeah.
So it's really good in that sense. And again, one of the things that I think Skeleton Crew really captured was that element of the Star Wars rhyme. You feel you're in the world, but at the same time, this is something different.
That's probably the feeling that they wanted to do, and how the production of every Star Wars show lately has done a really, really good job at making that everything still feels contained in the galaxy. So yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. That's again. I think I really love the series, and now that I'm thinking about it, talking about it as we go, it was really a nice experience to watch the experience.
So there's another couple of things that I wanted to know about the show, and it's about that, right? I think they did a really good job of investors into that world, and at the same time tried to make you think what happened to it, right? Because I don't know if you know, there's a novel around the same that same period, and this one is not Legends, it's canon Star Wars, like
it's canon Star Wars.
yeah, it's now canon, and it's a novel that's called Bloodline.
I haven't read it, but I've heard about it. Yes.
All right, so this novel is really, really good. It's amazing, and it goes around the establishment of the New Republic, right? Well, maybe not so much the establishment, but how Leia struggled so much during their establishment, because rebooting the Republic, forming the Senate again, trying to unify the galaxy under a new rule was really, really hard. And especially because they were actually fighting um, the governments of the planets that actually like the Empire, right?
Yeah,
And Star Wars, we always
the
think that the Empire was really bad, but there were a lot of systems that actually like the Empire, like it happens on our own world as well, right? There's a
yeah.
lot of parties that actually benefit from tyranny, right? So in this novel, they start showing the cracks in the system, right? And I think that's one. It's probably one of the things that I like to know the most, and I think they kind of set up, and it's my own theory, and it's that well, what actually happened with Aten after being discovered, right? After what happened
Yes.
to the Republic, knowing that there is this place that basically prints freaking money,
And
and
was
it
kind of frozen in time for however many years.
yeah, for
Yeah.
God knows how many years, he just kept printing money, and I cannot help but to link it with that, right? Because in that novel, it shows that there are two factions in the Senate, in the
Mm.
New Republic Senate, and one of those factions was literally like the one that basically started the First Order, right? And
Yeah.
to start the First Order, they absolutely had to have money somewhere. So that's what I think the link is gonna be, because for them to be able to fund the creation of a huge whole fleet of ships like the one that First Order had, they absolutely had to do some tinkering with money here and there, and I think
um,
that that was the way for them to get it.
and I mean, there's still a lot of holes in terms of the storyline to be filled. One of the things that really makes me curious, um, kind of in that same vein, is what's going to happen during the Mandalorian movie. How that's going to affect the canon and the idea of the Star Wars
Hmm.
universe as we see it today. And yeah, again, I was I was listening to you speak just now, and I was thinking like, yeah, definitely. I mean, George Lucas. George Lucas based the Star Wars universe on kind of this idea at the time of the Viet Cong versus the American
Right.
Empire, or if you want to have, or if you want to look at it that way, you could also compare it to the Bad Germans party, right? And it's yeah, it kind of mirrors the, or it could mirror if they do it well, um, kind of politics today and how it's the same thing kind of, but at the same time more complex, right?
Well,
And I
maybe not so much complex, but suited to the galaxy, so you digest it a little bit
sure,
better and try to find
sure,
it on our own work.
sure. Maybe complex is not the word, but yeah, it's more up to date, let's say.
Yeah.
So yeah, and yeah, I mean, when Star Wars is written well, it's great. It's one of the best. I mean, franchises in terms of science fiction and again fantasy, because there's a lot of elements of fantasy in Star Wars. I don't say it as a criticism. I say it as a as a compliment. Those elements of criticism that harken back to even sort of the Arturian legend kind of thing. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
Obi-Wan is kind of Merlin, you know. It's kind of that sort of thing, and I love that.
Well,
I
yeah,
love that.
I mean, if, for as long as they can, yeah, that's something that they've been trying to do with different Star Wars stories here and there. But yeah, for sure. I mean, the hero's journey, it's at the core of what Star Wars became to be. And I think they
Yeah,
also try
definitely.
to do it on this show in a way, in a sense. But yeah, and
Yeah,
that's something that actually makes me a little bit frustrated because I absolutely want to know what happens next. Yeah, Star Wars has made me that kind of person, right? What
yeah.
happened to Jod? I mean, Jod was that kind of mentor figure that they had, but we're not gonna know what's gonna happen to him.
You know, you know what I think they could do, because I doubt unless they unless they have like Jude Law on a like 10-year contract, which maybe they do, but
But
I don't know.
I think that's very difficult.
I doubt it, but I mean, one can hope,
Yeah.
right? But um, but one of the things that maybe they could do, one of the things that I love that Star Wars has been doing in the past few years, um, is this kind of the use of animation, right? Like this sort of Clone Wars type animation with Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire,
All
right?
right.
I think they could do something like that with characters like Judd and maybe bring some characters back from Skeleton Crew or other other stories in the Star Wars universe. I would really like to see
Yeah,
because I
imagine
think
if they would do like Tales of the Padawans, and they can tell
ooh,
what
that'd be
happened
nice.
with Cal Kestis, with Kanan before he met
Hmm.
Hera. They could actually tell us the story of how they actually met, what happened to Jod. That would be oh my god, that is a really good idea. Like they could tell so many stories of what of those
You
characters that are not actually Jedi's.
you hadn't thought about it, because that's something that has been in my mind about the Jude storyline, which has made me think: are they trying to kind of wait and do this backstory here or
Yeah, they
something like that?
should.
Because I think that would be really really great.
Yeah, because Tales of the
Um,
Empire wasn't really that good. Not as
yeah.
good as Tales of the Jedi, but if they could do like Tales of the Padawan and try to bring in all those things that they've been cultivating on different projects, I would love to see them try to bring in Cal Kestis outside of the video games.
Yeah, and that's the other sorry, that's the other thing I was going to say. Um, Star Wars, like live action and Star Wars proper, should give the video games more love.
Oh yeah,
should
I
give
mean
them.
they have the actor ready to do live action whenever they want.
I mean, they did it with what's the name of the actress? The Mandalorian one. What's the name? I
With
forgot the name of
Bo-Katan,
the actress.
with Katie Sackhoff.
Bo-Katan, yeah, with Katie Sackhoff. They did it, and they could do it with
Yeah, they
a
can
lot
do
of
it
other.
easily, man. They should absolutely do something like that. And if they can bring Cal Kestis live action in Ahsoka season 2, like that would be another part
You know,
of the fan service that I want, that
you know,
Skeleton Crew didn't have. But please
t-
give me something like that.
talking about fan service, something that I would really like to see is what's the name of this I'm blanking on the name of all these Star Wars actors, like voice actors and that sort of thing. But you know the guy who played Darth Maul on Clone Wars. You know who I'm talking about?
Um, who play who?
Darth Maul. Darth Maul.
Oh, of course. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the name. I'm seeing the guy, but
Oh my God, he is incredible, and he's even a video. There is this video from Ahsoka's voice actor.
mm, yeah. What's his
Jesus,
name?
I'm forgetting the names of every one of
Yeah,
them as well.
we're blanking on the names, but yeah, people who know who they are know who they are.
Ashley,
Yeah,
Ashley Eckstein, she shared a
that's the
story
one.
about them recording the seventh season of the Clone Wars,
Yeah,
and it was incredible because she was like, I had never seen anyone out nerd Dave Filoni and Sam Witwer. Sam Witwer, that's the name.
Sam
And
Witwer.
yeah, Sam
That's his name.
Witwer was correcting Dave Filoni, and it was incredible. And whenever he makes an interview about Star Wars, he's absolutely the man for you to try to include
Yeah,
in every project you want. If and
yeah,
if you and not just to be Darth Maul, and if they don't want to include him, because that's we're getting massively up out of topic here, but there is also a cliffhanger that I absolutely need to have, which is to have resolve, which is the one from Solo. And if they could do it, they have the
oh yeah,
room
they
to do it
should.
on the same time space, and that would be Andor.
They should definitely do something with that because that cliffhanger really left us hanging. I mean, it's like it was like, okay, this is great, but what are you going to do with this? And evidently, well, Solo was great, but it didn't do great financially. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, there's so much to explore still, even in the because this is still part of kind of the main. I don't want to say timeline, but main cast of characters in Star Wars, right? It's still Darth Maul, Solo, even. I mean, I think I saw one of your notes touching on this a little bit, but even Lando, they should do something with Lando.
Yeah, for as long as
Um,
they have, I mean, they did it on episode 9, but out of out of nostalgia, and that's
yeah,
yeah.
and it was kind of like, yeah, thank you, but try to do something more interesting. It's like, yeah, I mean, again, that's the problem with the sequel, with the sequel trilogy. It's there's a lot of good ideas there, but it's just the execution wasn't
It
necessarily
was
great.
it was a masterclass on wasted potential. That's how I like
Yeah,
to call it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, they
and
should
that,
actually try to do it for as long as as for as long as we still have Billy D. Williams alive.
well, yeah, and yeah, he's getting up there in terms of
Yeah,
years. So,
very much.
I mean, actually, I'm impressed in a good way that Harrison Ford is still acting.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's with that guy? He's like 83 or something, and he's like, yeah, no, I'm still doing stuff, and it's like,
Yeah, like he was totally like, yeah, well, I just wanted to do Marvel because everyone was having so much fun with it, and I hadn't.
yeah, no, and
Yeah, for sure.
again, massive off topic stuff, but again, if we have if we get into a rhythm with the podcast and things, there are a couple of series that from Apple TV, that are really really good, and one of them is Harrison Ford is in one of them. It has nothing to do with Star Wars, nothing to do with science fiction or anything. But if you have the time, it's called Shrinking. It's called Shrinking, and it's really really good.
Interesting. All right.
He's basically with he plays an old psychologist with this guy from How I Met Your Mother. Jason.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and they basically play off each other to different types of psychologists, right? And it's a really well done comedy. It's nice. And since we're talking about Apple, just to close up on this kind of parenthesis, there's a really great science fiction series. And kind of parallel universe sort of thing called For All Mankind.
Oh,
It's
I've heard about
really,
that
really
one.
great.
Yeah.
It's really really great. Yeah, if we could do something with that someday, I'd be giddy.
It's on Apple, right?
It's on Apple.
Oh no, I'm not gonna watch it.
I
I've already
mean,
paid way too many streaming services, and I'm not gonna give my money to Apple. I'm sorry.
the way to watch it is, well, there's other ways to watch it. But,
I mean, yeah, but
yeah. Yeah, I know. No, I know, but anyway, it's great. And yeah.
So
to
yeah,
bring it back
mysteries.
to-
I still have one. It's a tiny one. I don't think I'm gonna spend too much time talking about this. Was that lightsaber from the Old Republic or from the High Republic?
I remember when I saw it that I thought about it.
Yeah,
I
because it
don't
has
know.
it had the very distinct golden design to it, that it's very
It had-
very reminiscent of the High Republic, and if it
It ha-
is, then I think it would tie in with more of the sort of secrets that they had from Tad Rennett's adventure and everything that happened to it and what happened to the ship, right?
And again, there's still a lot to explore in that sense. And I mean, they should do something with the. Not because everything needs an origin, but they should really do something
with that time period at least.
with that time period at least. That especially, I would love if we could get an origin of lightsabers, right? And or
I think we're
showing
gonna get that on, and that's probably that Dawn of the Jedi film that they are producing. That it's gonna be like at the beginning of a timeline. Yeah, I think they're gonna touch on that. And yeah, it would be great. And I think they also have a lot of material to borrow from Legends, because Legends, it's very very thorough on for example, all lightsaber lore, right? What
Yeah.
every color of lightsaber meant for every type of Jedi. They're very very thorough about it, and I think they can totally do a little bit of more work on it. And we will have it, but yeah, it's still gonna take some time.
And again, it's something that we've talked about this before, but it's something that I love particularly about the Acolyte. I mean, I know the Acolyte was a flawed series, but one of the elements that I really really loved about it was the bleeding of the crystal.
Yeah,
The bleeding
that
of the
was
Kyber crystal.
really good.
That was, I mean, and seeing that in live action was like, wow.
I would have hoped to see something like that on Tales of the Jedi, on that episode when Ahsoka first the first brother. I would have
Mm.
hoped to see something like that in that episode. But in the sense, because on the Ahsoka novel, she gets her new lightsaber, her new white lightsabers by
Her light.
purifying those kyber crystals, right? But they didn't.
Yeah.
And I actually applaud the way the acolyte was brave enough to show us that process.
Yeah, it was, and especially the accolade is again. There's this element of wasted potential, which happened also with the sequel trilogy, but there are elements there that are great, great, and again, to bring it back to Skeleton Crew, one of the things that I really appreciate about the series is the fact that they knew they wanted to tell a story in the Star Wars universe with some different elements, and they went and told the story, and it was great.
Yeah, the way they used that lightsaber was incredible. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
the last swinging that they've done to a lightsaber ever, and it worked really well.
And and I mean, this is something that I was also thinking about regarding the lightsaber. Uh, it's nice to see a lightsaber being used in a comic way, right? In a
Yeah.
comic way, it's like, I mean, I love that element of slapstick they had with the kid and the lightsaber. Great, great, and I think we need a little bit more of that. Not
That makes me think of
necessarily.
another point, and it was
Mm,
so yeah. The lightsaber was used really comically on the first place. Then Jod uses it to basically show that he was an emissary, that he was a Jedi from the Republic.
yeah,
But it also shows how that the presence of that lightsaber is what basically triggers the suspicion from the supervisor, and the supervisor like already kind of know that he was either an imposter or a traitor, but
or a
someone
traitor.
absolutely not welcome, right?
Yeah, because and again, this is the idea of the of adding being kind of frozen in a kind of time capsule even.
Yeah,
Because it's yeah, it's this idea of yeah. The last report we had was that Jedi are evil or bad or however they phrased it, but yeah, it's kind of like okay, time has not passed here.
yeah. That's two things that I think they were not very resolved very efficiently. And well, probably yeah. As pretty much as we've already said before, we're not gonna get an answer to that. But why didn't they receive any more updates after Order 66, right? Or if they did, why was the Empire so unaware of At-Aten for them to have been isolated for so long, right?
Especially because I mean, you have a mint, in
Yeah, I mean, you have a
in
printing money machine that can absolutely fuel whatever project you want, right? The empire, what the remnants of the empire wouldn't need to be
yeah.
scrambling with any kind of project after the defeat, right?
It's kind of,
Uh,
and I mean, I know this is part of the conceit of the story, and if the Empire knew about adapting, then we wouldn't have really a story to tell here. But that aside, it's kind of like I don't know. One day you lose Switzerland, and you know it's kind of like yeah, you lose all the places where the really big banks and where people that have a lot of money save their money, and it's like that doesn't happen really. But
yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Yeah, but again, maybe maybe this is just a little bit of a nitpick, but because again, It's kind of like the eagles in Lord of the Rings, right? Why didn't
Oh,
the
yep.
eagle? But it's kind of like yeah. If you really try to think about it logically, there are a little bit of holes here. Yeah. What else is there
I actually think that it was also like something that attacked my logic a little bit was the fact that um, if the ship crashed into Atten, I mean they found the ship to be crashed, yeah, the kids,
Mm, yeah.
but why wasn't the supervisor aware of it? If any ship, if the Onyx Cinder locked into automatic pilot, entering at
And
Akron and at Atten, why
and
weren't they aware of
especially
it?
and especially because yeah, that's maybe a little bit of a hole on the script because it's a ship from Ad Atom, so why wouldn't he be aware of that?
Yeah, why weren't they aware that there was a crashed starship on the planet that tried to get in, or yeah, what happened when they actually crashed,
or
or
or, or,
why
or
weren't
what?
they unaware that a ship from Atten was stolen by pirates?
Or was it just or was it just kind of this element kind of 1984ish where it's better for you not to know that there are things outside of this kind of purview or things that you're not supposed to know, that sort of thing. That could have been explained a little bit better, I
Yeah,
think.
absolutely.
But again, I understand why, in a sense, why it wasn't, because I mean, still, and especially in the case of Skeleton Crew, it's kind of a family show, so you cannot get really too in the weeds about a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
Which you can do with other shows like Andor, or even The Mandalorian, right? Or even the Mandalorian. Yeah.
Well,
Again,
I think the Mandalorian has a little bit of a better space for them to expand on things. But yeah, I mean, for a show that needs to be so self-contained, I don't think it was gonna be easy for them to reveal anything. But it's a little bit of a plot hole.
yeah, definitely. But even then, and I mean, we were able to we were able to see this because I think we've watched and we've consumed in general a lot of media, and especially fantasy, science fiction, this sort of thing. I'm we even sometimes create our own kind of little stories universe and that sort of things, or at least I like to do that. So I like to um, um, know how things are constructed, written, that sort of thing. But it's true that, I mean, when a kid is watching this, or even a family is watching this, most people are not going to kind of
Yeah, they're
think
not gonna
twice
care.
about this sort of thing, right? So yeah. What about another element? And I think it was a little bit quick. Again, this sort of thing that Disney does, where episodes are a little bit too short for my liking. But the last episode, I really loved when all of the ships came, right? All of the battleships came, especially the X-wings, right?
Oh yeah, the X-wings,
That
and one of there were actually a couple of the prototype star yeah, I forget the name of those ones, but the ship that actually Hera tested on Star Wars Rebels.
the was that the B-wing? I think was that the B-wing or the
No, no, I don't remember. I'm gonna look for the ship model. Hold on.
the, the go ahead.
But yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and again, they should do, and I don't know
B
if
Wing.
that's
Yeah, yeah, it was B Wing.
it was the B wing. Okay, yeah,
Yep.
I thought it was, um, but yeah, that's something that they should also try to explore, with especially with with the rebuilding of the Senate and the kind of rebuilding of the new, or the building rather, of the new republic, kind of the how the system kind of works, right? And again, the Mandalorian does this a little bit with especially with this character. I don't know his name in Star Wars, but I know the actor. You know, the Korean actor, who's idol in the live action Avatar series.
The
You know
voice
who I'm
actor?
talking about? No, not the voice actor, but the actual live action actor of the new Netflix Avatar series.
Oh shit! That's another one that I haven't finished watching.
Okay, okay. But anyway, him.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But I know who you're talking about. Yeah, but yeah.
You know
He
who I'm
was
talking
he
about.
appeared to be like everywhere. Like he was in Mandalorian and he was on Ahsoka as well. That's
Yeah.
that's part of what of the unexplored bits of the New Republic that they haven't really had maybe the time to explore on. And I think the reason why they haven't been able to, it's because one of those Star Wars projects that actually died, and well, it's presumably very very dead, was Rogue Squadron, which was one
Rogue
of those projects that was in charge like directly by Kathleen Kennedy,
by Kathleen Kennedy, and
the
yeah,
Sith Lord who is in charge of Lucasfilm.
yeah,
And and yeah, yeah, that project is dead, and it's a shame because that's the one that I actually think would have been the most interesting to see, because I really want to see the full extent of the New Republic's fleet, right? Because
I
I
mean,
would
it's kind
love
of
to
like,
know how big, how many X wings, A wings, B wings are actually in the galaxy right now.
and
Yeah,
yeah, and for me, it would kind of be a way of, it would kind of be a kind of a counterpoint in terms of world building to what Andor does indeed, right? Because when you have a look at Andor, you're kind of going into the inner workings of the Empire, right? I think what a show like Rogue Squadron could have done, or could do, if they do, uh, maybe not
I don't
Rogue
think they
Squadron,
will.
but something similar to it at some point. It could be that, like, exactly that, yeah, the inner workings of the new republic, right? And I think there's definitely a ways to explore there.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the best things that we were able to watch from Rogue One, and one of the highlights of the movie, which was the
Mm.
huge space battle when you get to see the full extent of the Rebel fleet. And coming from Andor and coming from the original movies, you know that the rebellion was struggling, that they had very little pilots, very little ships, and that every single resource that they lost was really really a big damage for them. And I want to know if the Republic started like mass producing Y wings, or what happened, right? Well, maybe
Yeah,
maybe not just Y wings, but X wings and A wings and everything, right? And
yeah,
frigates. I wanna know what happened to them.
how do you get from and I mean, that's one of the things, for example, that I really liked about the about episode 7, which in the end just got kind of left to the wayside, like many things in the new sequel trilogy. But in this what's the name of the planet? Tatooine 2.0, right?
Right.
Yeah. Um, where where you get to meet Ray, and she's kind of been living in the ruins of a star destroyer, and it's like, how did that get there? Why is that a star destroyer? Uh, Basically, the ruins of the why are there the ruins of the star destroyer in the middle of a planet, whatever it was,
Jakku.
Jakku.
Yeah,
That's the one.
that's actually something that they can absolutely do, and it's explained on a trilogy of novels that's Aftermath, and
Oh yeah,
that
that's the
that's
one.
those are the three novels that finish up explaining how the Empire got beaten, and the last
Yeah,
battle against the Emperor was on Jakku, but it's on a novel, right? Uh, it's something that they
yeah.
need to show to connect the dots on live action or at least on animation. It would be awesome.
I mean, yeah. I don't ask for Lucasfilm to do everything in live action, because I know that it's expensive, it takes time,
Yeah,
and sometimes it's not the best idea. But you have animation. It's easier to do it in animation. Do it in animation. Yeah.
yeah. I have absolute faith in everything that they can do animation wise, and I think it would be excellent.
Actually, I was thinking about this earlier. Under is coming out this year, like in April, May, something like that. Uh, but are there any other Star Wars like projects coming up this year?
Probably not, but there is something. Probably they're gonna announce something because this year is Star Wars Celebration in May, and it's gonna be in Japan.
Yeah.
So probably they're
Ooh, that'd be
gonna
nice.
announce the next installment of whatever they have in for animation. They know that it's like a
Please.
really really big part of their production and one that it's beloved by everyone. And if they hadn't been so successful on producing the last season of the Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, and the Tales of the
Yeah,
Jedi and the Empire, they wouldn't double down on that.
and even Bad Batch, well, because Bad Batch was really good. I mean, maybe it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but for me it was really really good.
Which one?
Bad Batch.
Oh yeah, of course, that the Bad Batch, and they finished the Bad Batch, and I think they must be at this moment doing whatever they're gonna announce on Star Wars Celebration this year.
Sure, sure, yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of Marvel stuff and stuff, but I haven't heard a lot about Star Wars stuff this year. So
Yeah,
so
no,
it'd be
that's
interesting to know.
because they're probably saving the announcements for Star Wars Celebration. Probably we're gonna
Yeah.
get more details on the Dawn of the Jedi movie that it's being produced, and Dave Filoni's movie and the Mandalorian movie. So yeah, that's all gonna be there for sure.
And please do another season of Star Wars Visions. That's really good. That's really good.
And
Star Wars
probably a Star
Visions.
Wars games as well, although that hasn't
Oh
been very
yeah,
successful lately. But
the
but but that's topic for a whole another video.
that's another episode in itself. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, Star Wars games is a thing, definitely. Yeah.
Okay,
Anyway,
so
we
I
went
wanna
kind
I
of.
wanna do something that it's
Go
that
ahead.
should be a little
Yeah.
bit quicker for us not to
Mm-hmm.
take that much time. So little bullet points of great and bad things that you have from the show.
From the show.
Yep.
Okay, so great things,
Bullet
and I've
points.
already, yeah, bullet points. But basically, I'm gonna summarize a lot of what I've already said. I love the idea of making Star Wars um, outside of the kind of normal continuity, normal characters, and still bringing a lot of elements from the myth of Star Wars, the mythical elements of Star Wars, and elements of the political side of the universe. I think Skeleton Crew did that really, really well. Really, really well, and I hope they keep it up kind of on that same vein. Hopefully, we get an animated Tales of the Padawan
Oh, that would be
series.
so good.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great, I think.
All right, so great things that I like a lot. Aside from the production, which I think was absolutely stellar,
Mm.
the pirate port.
Yeah, yeah, the pirate
The
port was
pirate port, I
great.
think it was incredible. It was something that we needed to see from Star Wars. A place that was only for pirates. That looks like they invaded because it was an old republic. Well, not all republic, but one of the republic's medical centers. I think it
Mm.
was amazing.
And in terms of the new locations that we found, I think the idea of the hotel of the hotel that we saw above the kind of treasure thing, uh, that was really really nice as well. I really really liked that,
Yep.
and especially this idea of yeah, there are kind of like there are hotels in Star Wars, and there are just kind of people moving around. That's something that Star Wars needs more of as well. It makes the universe feel more lived in.
I really liked as well the Kim's Observatory
Mm.
and Kim's in general. I think it's one of the uh, new original Star Wars characters that I think I've joined the most watching. Like seeing a little owl thing, being like an astronomer, like a cartographer. I think it's incredible because
Yeah,
despite being in space in a galaxy, you don't really see that many astronomers in Star Wars or cartographers or like scholars that you
there's
can go get any kind of information from and they will know everything about it.
yeah, that's something that may be missing a little bit in general in Star Wars, and there's this type of uh, let's say the kind of sage type character without being kind of the magical type of
Yeah, without being Yoda.
without being Yoda or yeah or Obi Wan. Yeah, just someone who is really intelligent, really into its thing. That's something that's sometimes missing in Star Wars because because the emphasis is not necessarily there, but it can also be explored, and that's nice to see.
The
Yeah.
barrier around at Aten, I think it was incredible. It was a very interesting design and a very interesting concept to fake out a giant gas planet to hide a rocky planet inside. I think that's one of the most science fiction things I've seen in Star Wars ever.
Yeah, yeah, and that's not something that you. I don't think that we've seen something like that in Star Wars before.
Yeah, I
You,
absolutely didn't expect it.
you kind of get the planet is the planet, and there's a planet, and
Yeah, a
if the
planet within a
planet it's
planet, it was something that I really wasn't expecting, and I really liked that.
mm, that's great. I also really liked in general the character designs, especially I forget the name of the girl, but this kind of cyborg girl
Ah,
character,
KB.
KB, yeah,
Yeah.
KB. I loved the idea, and again, it touches on this more science fiction type idea, type character, and it kind of plays also a lot with this idea of, are you human? Are you a droid? What are you? Which basically that.
What kind of Lando helper are you?
Yeah,
Remember
exactly.
Lando's well, no,
Oh,
he wasn't a droid, but yeah,
yeah, but
but
it
cyborg.
was an android and a cyborg, yeah, and it was wow, that's something that you don't see explored like this in the Star Wars universe
Well, but you know they kind of
often.
did like those kind of cyborg enhanced people like on the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. To be honest, I had forgotten about them, but yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
sadly for Boba Fett, yeah.
Sadly for Boba Fett, it's not a very memorable series, but yeah, no, it's there. But still, in terms of the design and the design and kind of the environment is still kind of a little bit different, because even if it was done in in Boba Fett, now that you mention it, um, it was done in kind of a different environment, right? It's more of a this um, yeah. Those are kind of different types of characters, and it's not a main cast sort of character that you see. So, or at least from what I can remember of the show. To be honest, I don't remember a lot about Boba Fett, but yeah, I kind of blocked it. Not because it was bad necessarily, but it was just not memorable. So I kind of just
Yeah, it's
it just
because it was forgetful. I mean,
so
yeah, sadly.
yeah, because I really
I
like
wish it
I
weren't.
really I really wanted to like it. I really wanted to like it, but it is what it is.
I liked it. I liked it. The
Um,
problem with Boba Fett is that there is not so much Boba Fett as we
I
would
mean,
like. We
I
would have
mean
liked.
I mean the thing is that they did with the Mandalorian what they wanted to do with Boba Fett. So once they wanted to do Boba Fett, it's like, what character is this, right? And so it's like, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but yeah, I mean,
but yeah,
especially talking about that, the character development was incredible. Like each character had a very specific time to shine and a specific arc that
and they
they
have
very much try to
fulfilled,
grow. I loved it.
and yeah, they have they are fully rounded characters with their own motivations, and that's, again, that's also refreshing, thinking in general about some series some series in general where you don't see a lot of development, and that hurts the show in general. That hurts shows in general. So that's something good to see, especially in Star Wars, because sometimes I feel like sometimes in Star Wars, um, some characters can be felt sort of like just cardboard cutouts, and that's not great.
Yeah, not at all.
So yeah, that's another element I really liked about the series, and again, I already touched on this, but I think the characterization um, of Judd is great. It's great, and I really really liked it. It kind of
Yeah, his speech was something out of this world. I loved every
yeah
second of it. They absolutely capitalized on on his strengths as an actor to do it. It was incredible.
yeah no and I mean it shows when you have like an actor who has actually been doing what he's been doing for however many years and doing it really really well, and it's like okay you're acting now, right? It's like
Yeah, I mean they really needed to put some weight into someone with experience while working with child actors. I'm not saying they weren't
yeah
great, but they really needed to balance something with someone as Jude Law.
yeah no they were good, but I mean you definitely need
Yeah, I mean they were not gonna be able to pull the whole show off just with kids.
unless you're
That's exactly what they have to do with Stranger Things.
yeah the same thing, and well we'll see what happens with Stranger Things whenever it comes out, but because
Yeah, it should be out this year finally.
yeah at some point this year. uh, Anyway even I forgotten what
Oh yeah, so
what
I
happened
wanted
the last time,
something
but
that I left unsaid.
mhm.
Lanupa,
Go ahead.
that planet I think was incredible because it's one of the things that it's controversially one that I really like about episode 8,
Mm-hmm.
which is Cantobite. The whole Cantobite thing on episode 8, I
Yeah.
really like it, but I know people hate it. Probably
No, I
because
love it.
it was
I
like
love it.
yeah, I love it, and I think people hate it mostly because it was like a pointless side quest. And I agree, that was a pointless side quest.
Which, which yes, but I don't care. To be honest, I don't care.
But it looked really good, and it was something new that they brought to Star Wars. And doing it again on Lanupa, I think was great. And I love that
Yeah.
episode and those two episodes located there because they brought a lot of character development for the kids. So
Again,
I loved it.
and again, it also helped with the world building, right?
Yep.
It also helped with the world building, which is something that it's always appreciated in the Star Wars universe, right? Because not all the planets need to be either sand planet or ice planets or
Yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
So
Or a forest planet.
or a forest planet, yeah. That's
Yeah,
what I
they're
was gonna
not
say.
they're not magic lands for sure.
Yeah, so that's again, and I've been saying this a lot for the past few hours, but it's refreshing. It's refreshing to see that sort of thing, and to see, in a way, kind of again people going on their own lives normally, but also seeing kind of like just a city civilization, and how that works in Star Wars. That's something I really like to see, and to their credit, I think that's something that Disney, uh, now that they have Star Wars, have been trying to do really really well since they since episode 7 really, kind of this idea of people eating, this idea of people just going a daily routine. That's something I really like to see in Star Wars.
The other thing that I really liked, and I'm gonna say it in a little bit of contrast uh, for
Okay.
context purposes, okay? I love the Onyx Cinder, but I didn't like it at first. And I think that was
Okay.
their intention with the ship. And so I'm gonna tell something really little that happened to me lately. I was with my
Sure.
roommate on a mall. We went to a Lego store, and I showed him that there was a new Lego set for the Skeleton Crew, and the Lego set was with the model of the new ship of the Onyx Cinder, right?
Of the Alexander, yeah.
And it wasn't really that good, and he was like, yeah, no, it doesn't look like a good ship. It looks like a little boring. Because obviously, if you are gonna look at a Lego model of a ship in Star Wars, you're gonna look for the good ones, right? An X-wing
Yeah,
or
the Millennium
the
Falcon, the
Millennium Falcon,
X-Wing.
right? And I was like, yeah, maybe you're right. It's a little dull. It's not so impressive, this new ship.
Mm-hmm.
And then they transformed it, and it's something that I think people don't realize that much, but it's something very, very, very um in, very smart that the production of every single Star Wars TV show has done, and it's that they've always put a lot of effort into making the ship a character as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it was particularly felt here. I think, especially because of the transformation that the ship
Exactly.
goes through, which is not something that usually happens. I mean, the Millennium Falcon, yes, it's a character within the show, but within the movie, or the movies, but it's not really. I mean, it's present when it is, but you're not kind of that conscious about it. I think one of the things that they did really well was with the Onyx Cinder, really making it clear that it was part of an integral part of the story.
And you know how I think people can relate. For example, people who has started to see Star Wars a little bit more lately, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna be able to appreciate it if you see it. And I absolutely think this is a sound argument. Ships are a part of the story. They are characters themselves, right? And the best
Yeah,
example that I have for this, it's the episode on the Mandalorian on season 2 when they blow up the ship,
yeah,
and
it's kind of
the
like
chapter is
wow.
called the tragedy, right? And you see it's a tragedy because the ship is blown to pieces, and you feel like the struggle that is to have a ship, right? It
Yeah,
completely shifts the narrative of the
and
series from that point.
it's kind of this thing where I mean, it's really well done because they do it in a way where I mean we've been with Din Djarin on the ship and with Grogu, even though I don't know if it's he's called Grogu at that point, but anyway, um, we've been with them on the ship um, for the last what season and a half, and it's kind of like yeah, this is the status quo, and it's like just blowing it up kind of even out of nowhere because it's you also feel like yeah, no, this is not going to happen, right? And they do it, and they do it, and they do it in a really well thought out manner, right?
Yeah, that's what I
It's
thought
really
it
really
was
well.
gonna happen on Skeleton Crew. Like on the Mandalorian, when the Razor Crest explodes, you're like, oh shit.
Now
And I
what?
thought
Yeah, it's
that was gonna happen on Skeleton Crew as well, and I was psychologically prepared for those kids to be stranded, and they needed to get a new ship or anything, right? But
but
they
they
did
kind
something
of they
even more unexpected, and I loved it.
yeah they kind of turned it on its head, and again this is kind of this sort of thing that worked on Skeleton Crew that I didn't expect for it to work with me, but it's kind of yeah, it's like it's not a 180 turn necessarily, but it's there are elements of subversion of expectation, right?
Yeah.
That really work on the script. That really work on the script and are really well executed. And not a lot of TV or films, I don't think, can say that. So it's again, it's a really well written show, and it's a nice surprise in that sense.
Yeah, and for everyone else, I cannot insist on this so much. Do try to watch or rewatch some of the latest things that the Star Wars has done in terms of series, and try to think of the
Yeah.
ships as characters, and it's gonna surprise you how much it changes. Ahsoka had a ship that belonged to the Jedi, that on
Yes.
itself was impressive. Bo-Katan had a ship on season 3 that was one of the old Mandalorian ships that were even present on the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Boba Fett has a very distinctive ship that that it's part of Star
Yeah.
Wars history as well.
It's part of Star Wars history, and it's
And now the Onyx Cinder,
clear.
it's an addition that I absolutely love. So yeah, if I really like that they kept bring this concept and keep nurturing it, because it's one of those science fiction themes that I actually love from Star Wars, and what it's gonna be my economical doom someday when I buy a really expensive Lego of a Star
Lego set.
Destroyer.
Yeah. No, I remember I had a Lego set. I think it was. I don't remember what it was, but I had a Lego set from Star Wars. It was a ship. I don't. I don't know what happened with that set, but I think I lost it while I was moving or something.
That's a
Sometime.
shame.
Yeah. And, I need to show you my Star
Yeah, your
Wars
collection. My
collection.
God, yeah.
Yeah, I need to show you my collection one day, and yeah, that'd be nice.
All right.
Okay.
So the
Yeah.
bad things in
One
bullet
of
points.
in bullet points. Okay. For all the good things I've been praising the show about, there's one element that I didn't really appreciate, and it's this kind. I had a kind of a pacing problem sometimes, and I think again, this is probably because they are, for whatever reason, they're not showing us all of what they're filming, or they're not filming things completely, and they're just chopping things up,
Yep.
chopping things off in a really weird way, and that's just a shame for the pacing of the series in general.
Yep,
That's
I
one of
completely
my
agree.
big criticisms.
Yeah, I
That's one
mean,
of my big.
even if their problem is to think that people are not gonna watch the show for too long, they should know better that every on this era of streaming services, you can make people watch something for 50 minutes if it's engaging enough.
If it's engaging enough, if it's well written, if it has something to say, especially, because that's the thing. There's a lot of, again, I don't like this word, but in this case, I think it's warranted. There's a lot of content out there, right? And what differentiates content with actual entertainment or even art sometimes, it's actually whether you have something to say, and the way you say it. And again, that's why I think there's a lot of success with this series, but at the same time, it does suffer from this kind of I don't know, corporate sort of structure, which doesn't really help.
Yeah, probably. And I still think it's something that they should realize sooner. Because probably the best compliment that you can have for the series is when people think it's too short. If people want more
Yeah.
of it, for sure, it's a good sign that it's doing well and that people want it more. So you can take the risk to do a little bit more. That's also one of the problems. Disney, it's on a mood that it's no taking risks. It's really not taking
Um,
risks at much after disastrous 2023 and a little bit better 2024.
yeah, and I mean, we'll see what happens this year and next year as well. But I think I don't know, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Disney is kind of going to get a little bit even more risk averse uh, in the years to come. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But but yeah, let's see what they how Star Wars kind of evolves in that way.
Yep.
And another element that I really well, another element that I think could have been better sometimes, and this is a little bit of a nitpick maybe, but some of the customs for the creatures sometimes they felt very like teddy bearish, right? I'm thinking about especially the second in command of the pirate ship. It really felt like, yeah, I'm kind of I know you're trying to look kind of like a wolf sort of thing, but it really feels like yeah, from another era, you know. It's like
Well,
a
I
costume
think
from
yeah.
the
I
80s
mean,
or something,
I think you're right.
which I think may have been the idea, but I don't know if it actually worked.
I think you're right, but I rather not criticize that because I would much rather have them do those kind of costumes practically
Mm-hmm.
and have it look a little bit off,
Okay, sure.
rather than them trying to do every character CGI.
No, yeah, I get
Or
the point.
not at all, like it happened with um, there was this series that got like criticized a lot because it had like zero aliens. I think it was Obi-Wan.
Oh
I think
yeah,
Obi-Wan was like
Obi-Wan.
completely humanized,
Yeah.
and it really suffered from that. And then there was like well, and also the prequels. I mean, the prequels were filled with CGI aliens, right? And it really hasn't aged very well. So
Okay.
yeah, I
No, fair
think that
point.
I appreciate the effort, but I get what you're saying.
Fair point. Yeah, I think what's the alternative? Having most of the aliens done by CGI. Yeah, not the great not a great option either. But yeah, I just felt it sometimes felt a little bit off, and it kind of took me out of the story a little bit
I
at
really
points.
like I really like the way they did Neil. Neil was
Oh yeah.
incredibly well done, and and his family was really well done, and for this alien species that was completely new for the show.
Yeah, so, so in that sense, yeah, you may have that maybe teddy bearish kind of aesthetic, but on the other hand, you have Neil, and Neil was very well done, and it felt like you were kind of speaking to the guy. So that's good. That's nice. And it's good to see new additions to the kind of canon in the alien kind of pantheon of Star Wars. It's nice to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way they've been able to pull this off since the start of Mandalorian with puppeteers and everything like it used to be with the for the first Star Wars, I think it's the most added value that I can give them.
And this it's definitely something that I appreciate, and I think it's something that they also learned from the from the
Yeah,
prequel
for
trilogy
sure.
because they did everything and the there are reasons for that evidently, but yeah, I think the prequel suffered a lot from an overuse of CGI.
Yeah, and it's actually one of the good things that I have to say about episode 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
when they
definitely.
try to do aliens, they try to do it practically and they try to do everything as practically as they could to desaturate us from the excessive CGI that everyone criticized so much about the prequels. Because George Lucas
And I
went absolutely nuts about it.
and I think I mean the sequel trilogy is flawed, but one of the things that I wouldn't criticize from them is the production value in terms,
Yeah,
especially in terms of
exactly.
the
The production
special effects,
design.
the production design. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I think Star Wars has been really, really good at in every show, despite of the story, despite of the plot, the writing, whatever. But the production design on every single show has been fantastic.
Yeah, and they like we were talking about Neo just now. I think each show tries to bring something new to it. Um, in the case, for example, of the acolyte, there was one character that I really liked, and it's this the little kind of droid that, that the girl has. I forget the name.
Oh, yeah, I forget about it too.
Um, yeah, but that's something that I said like, okay, this is cool. This is cool. This is yeah, it's cute. So
Like
so
BD
that's
one
something that
on the Jedi games.
yeah, we one of the Jedi games as well. And again, going back to this idea of the droids is it's something that's very quintessential Star Wars, right?
Yeah, and it's
Mm.
something that they really have to nail in every show, on every outing because it's pretty much as what I was saying about the ships, right?
Mm.
The droids end up being a central character as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay.
Something that I absolutely hated, like from the very first episode, was the acting on Wim's dad. I don't know the name of the
Yeah,
character. Yeah, I
wasn't
absolutely
great,
hated it. It was so awkward. Like his son got literally
but
kidnapped by a alien spaceship and is leaving a
uh,
planet that I have never
I
dreamt of living, and he was like completely unemotionless, completely
I
emotionless.
think
My God.
yeah, but I think now that you mention it, I hadn't really thought about it, but now that you mention it, I did when I saw when I saw the show. I did think in general, not only about Williams that, but in general, the acting on the part on the parents part. Uh, I don't know if they did that intentionally, maybe to showcase the kids acting more, maybe. But yeah, it really fell flat for me.
Yeah, I mean they
In
didn't
general.
have that much time to give them a little bit more to work on, right? But Fern's mother, I think, was stellar. She did really well. Like it was
Yeah,
believable. It was emotional, especially at the last episode.
yeah.
But Win's dad, man, no, sorry, I couldn't connect.
It felt, yeah, it felt very cardboard.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
felt very
for a kid who lost his mom, the way the dad like literally looked, no, I don't know, like it
Yeah,
really made me feel
as Gabe, it
like
was.
bad for Wim, because like not only he lost his mother, his dad doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's something that I felt in general with the acting from the parents, except maybe as you were saying on the last episode, um, regarding the mom's acting. Um, but but yeah, that's something that I think. And again, I think it may have been done intentionally, but I don't know. Or it just came out that way, and yeah.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it really disconnected me from whenever he was on screen. But yeah.
yeah. Mm, what else is there here? I think. I'm seeing here that you wrote that you would have liked a cameo.
Yeah, okay. So the cameo, it's basically uh, my basic instinct that Marvel has made
Instilled in
me.
you.
It really isn't something necessary. It's something, it's not bad, because Star Wars shouldn't be Marvel. And I'm sorry for saying it, but it was Ahsoka's fault.
Yeah,
But I would have
I get
loved a cameo, man. Like they absolutely owe us a cameo, a Seb cameo from the Ahsoka series. I mean, which is basically Star Wars Rebel Season 5.
Star Wars Rebels season 5. Yeah,
I would have
no,
loved a Seb cameo on that series, especially because they gave us one on The Mandalorian season 3, so they could
yeah,
have absolutely given us one in Skeleton Crew at the very end.
no. I get your point, but actually I appreciate that they didn't do that sort of thing in this case. Basically, because of what I was saying earlier, I appreciate that this kind of story happens in a different part of the galaxy with a different set of characters, with a different base story. Even if we do touch on elements which are very Star Warsy. So I get your point about it would have been nice to have a cameo from a known character, but uh, I had kind of the opposite reaction, and this is because I had when the accolade ended, for example, I really didn't like that last shot on the series where we get this kind of shot of Yoda,
Yeah.
and I think it would have been something kind of like that, right? So I actually appreciate that they didn't do that.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, that's why I'm saying it doesn't need to be Marvel. It doesn't need to do it, but it's the Star Wars universe, so you should have like
Yeah,
some sense of that universe being connected a little bit more,
sure, no,
right? And this
I get
is,
your point.
yeah, and this is hopeful wishing as well. Yeah, probably Seb. I would love to see Agent Kala's live action as well. And both
Okay,
of
yeah.
them would have been a great fit for this series, with their story, with their, yeah, I mean, with their background in hidden
With
worlds,
the
right?
background,
So
yeah, going
yeah,
back to to the planet and living kind of.
And on that same note, another very, very wasted opportunity for them to cameo a very known Star Wars character was Hondo.
I did think about it. And I thought actually they might do that.
Yeah,
In
I
this
was
case,
I was absolutely sure they were gonna probably. Well, no, I was very, very um, thinking they were gonna do it at some point. Maybe
Mhm.
not as a central character, but a cameo, because it's
Yeah.
probably one of the most known pirates characters that we know from the Clone Wars and from Rebels. So it would have been a very easy way to cameo that character, especially talking about pirates and a
And
whole series centered around pirates. I would have loved it.
yeah, and in that case, I would have agreed a little bit more because, again, we're talking about pirates. It wouldn't have been that distracting. It's yeah, it's kind of like, was it in Boba Fett where we got the camera from?
Yeah, it wouldn't hijack the show.
It would yeah, it wouldn't have hijacked the show. It would have kind of, I think, kept the tone from the series. So yeah, that one, I would have been kind of a little bit more down with, but well, I don't think they didn't do it, and I think maybe they had the reasons
Yeah,
in the end.
probably if they would have had, I don't know, if Dave Filoni would have had any say on the production or the story, he would have forced it in, probably.
Probably because yeah, well, it's Dave Filoni and it's kind of the Star Wars Filoniverse. I think there seems to be kind of this divide in the Star Wars universe right now, and it's kind of like this the Mandalorian and everything that Filoni is doing, and the rest.
Yeah, if he wasn't producing so many stuff, so much of Star Wars nowadays, um, probably it's happening something similar to what happened to Marvel, and he's spread too thin on whichever creative direction Lucasfilm's taking. But if
Sure.
he had, and I like to think that when he's watching the series as a not as a producer,
As a producer,
but as a fan, he would have said like, yeah, they should have put Hondo
yeah, yeah. Hopefully, I mean, it's. I mean, one of the things that I think it's one of the advantages that Star Wars in general has over Marvel sometimes. Even though Marvel has really good building and really great productions. One of the advantages I think that Star Wars has today, even though it's not perfect, um, is that they have kind of this Filoni sort of vision, right? Which kind of is there with Kevin Feige in Marvel, but I think Kevin Feige is very much spread team
yeah, yeah,
Marvel.
much more as of lately.
Much more as of lately, definitely. Yeah. So, so yeah. Anyway, I think in that sense, Filoni has that. Let's call it advantage.
Well, and the last thing that I didn't really like,
Mm-hmm.
it's well probably as usual, the way much of the Star Wars fandom reacts to whatever comes new.
That yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really disappointing. It's something that they can absolutely control, um, but generally it's something that would always happen. But that I still think it's good to see that the show was still perceived so well. so that it didn't matter that much.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. In general, with fandoms today, but
Yeah.
especially, I don't know. Well, no, I know why in part, but it's just and this is just a general comment, but it's just a shame that the Star Wars fandom has become so toxic. And I know there's always been kind of this element of it in Star Wars, but yeah, it's like
Yeah, and
because of that
it's
sort of
probably one of the
people.
most damaging things that the Acolyte had against it, right?
Yeah,
And it's probably one of the things that damaged it the most. It's it's sad, it's sad, but that's why that's why I think Skeleton Crew was so good and was so important for Star Wars to have right now, because it will attract more people to the franchise the way, well, maybe not at the same scale, but in the same way the Mandalorian did.
sure, no, and it's again we're talking about diverse, yeah, it's the word diversifying the types of stories that we're telling in the same sandbox in a sense, right? And it's and that's necessary, especially for a franchise that's so beloved, but at the same time can get at points very stale. Um, it's important to find new ways and new stories to tell.
All right,
So
so
yeah.
yeah, I think that's all in the things that I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
overall I think I wanted to come up with a fun way to rate uh, shows and to rate Star Wars things. So
Sure.
I'm gonna go with 10 X-wings, kind of thing.
Okay. Sure.
So for me the show was 8 X-wings out of 10.
Okay. Okay. I think I agree.
Or maybe 7
Eight.
X-wings due to so many
Eight.
unsolved mysteries, but that's
I would.
nitpicky out of me.
No, I think I would go with 8, even even a little, a little bit higher, maybe because again, I wasn't expecting anything from this. I was not expecting anything from the show, and
Yeah,
again, I
sure.
started watching it out of my completionist kind of OCD sort of OCD sort of thing. So it's kind of like I need to watch it because it's I'm invested in this franchise, right? And it surprised me pleasantly. So I think I would go maybe a little bit higher. I would go with an 8.5. So next week and a half.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think there are a lot of things that future Star Wars projects can learn from something like Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, and if anything, I think Star Wars has a little bit more time to reflect upon what's being done right and what's been done wrong previously, and correct a little bit faster. And
Sure.
and yeah, probably that's also why I'm gonna be so anxious this year in May for the Star Wars celebration, for whatever they have in store to present.
Let's see what they come up with.
And yeah,
Yes.
and see how it's gonna change next.
Sure. Okay. I mean, it was a great first episode, I think. Or yeah, it was a long first
Yep,
episode,
yep,
but
yep, yep. Full of
but I
more than
think
just Skeleton Crew.
No, but I think that was part of the idea as well. Just to get into the Star Wars kind of mindset, and I mean, speaking about Star Wars in a vacuum, I think is a little bit difficult, but it's nice to have this sort of conversation. So it's nice to think about this sort of thing and to imagine what sort of thing the future may bring regarding Star Wars, because as we were discussing, um, there's a lot of things that still can be explored here, and hopefully it will be.
Yeah, and hopefully we will be soon. We'll be back soon with something a little bit more. Um,
Sure.
and hopefully, I think we should try to do something that tries to be a little bit more recent. The Skeleton Crew was over a little bit ago, so yeah, we should probably
Sure.
take that long into doing something.
I mean, we've already discussed some possibilities of projects, but I think I mean the one that I pitched, I think would be a little bit of a long. Well,
Ah, well, we'll see. That
we'll see.
we're gonna get to talk about that later.
We'll see, but we'll see what what we decide. But yeah, we could try to do something a little bit more recent, definitely.
All right, so that would be it. Thank you so much for listening, and yeah, go ahead and rewatch Skeleton Crew. Go ahead and also go rewatch some of the latest Disney release projects. I know that you're not gonna like all of it, but they're definitely worth watching, and it does help for Star Wars to be more relevant and to be more on the spot, and that we have a little bit more of it. That's all I think everyone wants.
Definitely. No, and again, we've talked at length about Disney and Star Wars and the Skeleton Crew, but definitely go on ahead and check out what shows are already there. There are some hidden gems there, so go ahead and have fun.
All right, so I think that's it for today. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye, guys.